What's going on, everybody? I appreciate you checking in. All right, this is my post-game reaction to our Week 1 loss against the Los Angeles Chargers. We fall short, 10-22, and I guess the only way you can kind of put it is an extremely disappointing loss for so many reasons. I mean, going into this game, going against Jim Harbaugh, all the drama that ensued, between the fans that wanted Jim Harbaugh versus AP, the talk has already started. And the Minshew versus Aiden O'Connell talk, all that stuff has already started. I'm not going to touch on it all, but it was disappointing because this was the opportunity. This was our opportunity to become the team that wins the games you're supposed to, right? AP has stressed and he's talked about he wants to change this culture. And this was an opportunity. This is a game that we should have and could have won without question. You just look at how the game played out, and I'm going to kind of go into why I think we lost this game. But these are games that you have to win. If you want to change this culture, if you want to become what the winning teams are, you have to be able to win the games you're supposed to win. I thought we were going to pull this game off. I ran the majority of this game thinking we were going to win this game. We were going to pull this game off. Either the defense was going to come through and provide us with a huge stop, or this offense was going to kind of gain a spark, and we were going to pull this game off. And that was well into the fourth quarter. I still thought we had a shot. And unfortunately, and I have to say it, kind of in true Raider fashion, we missed the mark. We didn't step up to the plate. We didn't become that team that just thrives when we need to and pulls the game off. And it's disappointing because the good teams win the games you're supposed to win. You pull off games like this and you start to change the culture. And unfortunately, this was an opportunity missed. And that's why this is an extremely big disappointment for me, was because this was an opportunity to start to change the mindset of this organization. And so I understand it's game one, but we're going to get into this week and we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into Baltimore and we're going to work our ass off and try to win this game. But look, without question, it's a disappointing loss, but let's go ahead and let's break this thing down. Okay. I'm going to start out and I'm going to talk about the defense first. All right. Because I think there is much less to talk about the defense than there is the offense. So we're going to start with the defense first. And look, I'm going to start out by saying what was shocking to start right out the box was Charles Snowden, our undrafted free agent, a guy that didn't even make the initial 53-man roster, was elevated after Malcolm Kuntz went down, and he started over Tyree Wilson. That was probably the number one thing that I noticed right out the box, was that an undrafted free agent that didn't even make this 53-man roster started over Tyree Wilson. Now, Tyree Wilson, he got hurt at some point in the first half, and he didn't come out of the locker room in the second half. He basically was a no-show in the second half, and due to, I believe, a knee injury. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. But for him to not even get a start over an undrafted free agent that didn't even make this initial 53-man roster is crazy to me. And so we'll kind of see how that plays out. But that was definitely one thing that stuck out. And then another thing, and just a positive, Christian Wilkins is an absolute beast. I mean, he is just that thorn in your side in an offense in so many ways. Not only is it in his play between the whistles, but he antagonizes the crap out of you. I mean, I believe it was when we sacked Justin Herbert or got him to the ground. He fumbled, and I believe it was Rashawn Slater that tried to jump on the fumble, and Christian Wilkins just put his helmet right into him. Should have been a penalty, in my opinion. But again, this is what Christian Wilkins brings. I mean, he just brings just that extra tenacity, and I love it. All the way to the end when the Chargers were in victory formation, and he's still popping the man across from him. Typically, it's almost kind of an unwritten rule where you just kind of stand up, put your arms out. You don't really hit each other, but Christian Wilkins is going to continue to hit you. And so between him and Max, it's just bringing a whole different mentality to the defense. And so Christian Wilkins, another thing I noticed real early is that Patrick Graham dialed up a really good game plan really throughout the entire game. I understand that towards the end, the Chargers kind of popped off some runs that definitely hurt us. Obviously, was momentum swings that really led to them scoring and winning that football game. But to start the game and throughout the entire game, I mean, Patrick Graham was bringing pressure all day from all different angles, whether it be the safeties coming down and coming off the edge, linebackers twisting. defensive lineman twisting. I mean, the stunts that he was running was was just beautiful to see. And so Patrick Graham had a game plan. He stuck to it. He was bringing the pressure, and so that's definitely one thing that I loved and enjoyed watching out of Patrick Graham's defense. And the one thing that I love seeing, just the way Patrick Graham kind of dialed things up is in the first half, it kind of tailed off in the second, but in the first half, they did a really good job of forcing the Chargers to be one dimensional. One of my keys to victory was basically shutting down the run and forcing them to pass the ball because they really have a bunch of second tier receivers. DJ Chark wasn't playing. You got Joshua Palmer, which again could be at best a number 2 receiver. They had Ladd McConkey, which is a rookie. They had just nothing but really, Quentin Johnson, their first round draft pick last year, still trying to figure out how well he could do in this league. And they have just a bunch of number 2s across the board. So I wanted the Raiders to force them to be one dimensional, force that Chargers offense to try to have to throw that ball in situations that were obvious, right? Those 3rd and 7s, those 3rd and 9s. Get them in a situation where we know what they're going to do, and it forces them to be one dimensional. And we did that extremely well in the first half and really the majority of the third quarter. And now here's where I think our defense fell off, and you got to give credit to the Los Angeles Chargers and their adjustments, because again, this game is all about adjustments. And coming out in the second half, they did a better job on their offense of kind of giving Justin Herbert just that extra half a second to a second to really throw that football. Again, not enough time to throw the ball deep, but what they did was they found the weakness in our defense. And unfortunately, it's a guy that I've talked about in a couple of videos and even a couple of lives that I've had, is Divine Diablo. I think they tried to find Divine Diablo on that football field, and they went after him. There was a couple times where they threw passes kind of right in his zone, or kind of receivers crossing his face, and they get the ball to him, and Divine Diablo would just miss the tackle. They ran directly at him, and there was times where Divine Diablo just didn't fill the gap. He didn't fill the gap, or he just ran right into the offensive line, and the running back found the hole and took off. I mean, I felt like in the second half, they did a really good job of targeting our weakness, and wherever Divine Diablo was, I mean, it felt like they went right after him. And that's when they started to kind of gain that momentum. And so, again, there's not a whole lot of negative that you can find within the defense, because, look, they balled out. I mean, if it wasn't for us going forward in 4th and 1 the first quarter, they probably wouldn't have had 3 points. If it wasn't for the fumble by Gardner Minshew, they probably wouldn't have had the second field goal. So we went into halftime. I believe the score, we were up 7-6. We had the lead going into halftime, and they shouldn't even had those 6 points if it wasn't for kind of the mistakes and mishaps on the offensive side. And so the defense basically pitched a shutout in the first half. And so there's not a whole lot. At the end of the game, when they start ripping off those runs, you're talking about a defense that's pretty gassed, a defense that has been on the field for a good majority of the game. And they're just playing as hard as they can because they know all the pressure is on their shoulders to make that stop. And so, look, I give credit to the defense. Yes, you want to see them step up and continue to shut that offense down. But at the end of the day, they basically shut that offense down for like damn near 3 quarters. Damn near 3 quarters. And I understand it's not how you start, it's how you finish. But at the end of the day, that defense balled out. Yes, I didn't want them to give up those long runs, but at the same time, the offense really didn't really put them in the best positions either. And so, with that being said, let's get off on the defense. Let's talk about the offense a little bit. Let's talk about the offense and just kind of my take on it. The one thing we got to understand is this is a brand new offense. It's a brand new system, brand new offensive coordinator. All right. And this is the first time that I think all 11 starters have been on the field at one time. Colton Miller was out the entire training camp and offseason. You got Devontae Adams that didn't play a whole lot in the preseason. Gardner Minshew wasn't able to throw to him as much in the preseason as maybe as we'd liked him to, and so there were things that there's things that this offense still needs to gel with. And so I wasn't expecting them to come out and all of a sudden score 30 points. Now, I expected more than 10. But look, Gardner Minshew, he made his mistakes. All right. He missed some open receivers. And again, that's going to happen when you're learning a brand new offense and you're going live 100% for the very first time with all your starters going against a starting defense. All right. So you're going to miss some receivers in the beginning. I said it in a couple of lives. I've said it in a few videos of mine that I expect it to take roughly 4 to 5 weeks for this offense to really gel and become what it potentially could be, kind of reach its full potential within 4 to 5 weeks. All right. So I'm going to give it a little bit of grace. Now, mind you, the fumble by the backwards pass by Gardner Minshew, that's a mistake he can't make. Point blank, period. The interception that he had where it was a tip pass, whatever, that happens. But Gardner Minshew played a fairly decent game outside of that. All right. He was able to hit those intermediate passes. There were quite a bit of check downs, but at the same time, I got to see, were there any open receivers when he threw those check downs? All right. I can't wait for the all 22 to come out. For those of you that don't know, the all 22 is basically on NFL, the NFL app. I think it's the NFL Plus app, where you actually get a coach's view. You get to see what the coaches see when they review film. All right. So it's a bird's eye view from up top. So you can see all the receivers and how the play develops. And you also see the box view, where you just see kind of the interior offensive line going up against the D line, the front seven. And so I can't wait for that to come out. It usually comes out maybe Monday or Tuesday. And I want to be able to see that, because I want to see how well did these receivers get open. Were those checkdowns because Gardner Minshew, one, had to take the check down because no one was open down the field, or two, there was too much pressure in his face. He had to get rid of the ball. And it could have been either of those two. So that's definitely something that I want to see. But yes, were there quite a few checkdowns? There were, but I want to see kind of what happened downfield. So, and when I will do a full breakdown later in the week, and I will kind of hit you guys with my breakdown as well after I can see that film. Now, look, one thing I want to talk about is, as the game started, the running game definitely struggled. And I think that was a lot had to do with our offensive line. Our offensive line struggled the entire game, not only in run blocking, but also pass blocking. I mean, Colton Miller, he definitely showed that he didn't have an entire offseason and even training camp and preseason to prepare. It showed. Khalil Mack basically took it to him. You had Dylan Parham. Dylan Parham was probably our worst offensive lineman throughout the entire day. I mean, just watching him, his ability to run block was very suspect. He was getting eaten up in the passing game. I mean, he struggled. He struggled from start to finish. Cody Whitehair, which I thought was going to be the worst offensive lineman of the day. He wasn't the worst. Parham was the worst, but he wasn't too far behind him. Cody Whitehair struggled all day long. Now, the one thing that I don't know if it could have been one, because Gardner Minshew just didn't have a lot of time in the pocket. I mean, he was just under duress the entire game, but we took basically no deep shots downfield. Trey Tucker, when it came to the deep ball, was non-existent. And that was one of the things that we thought we were excited about, because in preseason we saw Trey Tucker, going deep, getting a couple deep balls downfield, and he didn't get a deep ball, not a single one this entire game. Now, again, Gardner Minshew was under a lot of pressure, but I want to see that all 22. I want to see that bird's eye view to see, did we even attempt to go deep? Were there routes run deep? Did Gardner Minshew just not see it? Were they open? I mean, we didn't take a single deep shot downfield. Now, Gardner Minshew did a really good job of hitting those intermediate routes. I mean, I think I counted, and don't quote me on this, but I think I counted at least 7-8 balls that were at least 12 to 15 yards downfield. Crossing routes to Brock Bowers, to Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams had a couple. So Gardner Minshew did a good job of hitting kind of those intermediate passes. But again, we got to take deep shots. You got to try to press that ball downfield, 3, maybe even 4 times a game, complete 1 or 2 of them to hold those safeties back. And that's why I think our run game really did struggle, because when you don't hit those deep balls, and you don't push those safeties back, you don't force those linebackers to have to, because those safeties got to get back. That means those linebackers got to get in their drops. And when they don't have to hurry to get in those drops because they know everything else is covered behind them, they're going to be aggressive to the run even more than they're already supposed to be. And I think that's why our running game struggled quite a bit, because those linebackers were playing free. They were playing free to come up. And you got to remember, one of those linebackers is Denzel Perryman. And Denzel Perryman was not a good pass coverage linebacker. He wasn't. He was a good run stopper, but he was never a good pass coverage linebacker. And so we should have been able to kind of press things behind him again, which we did a little bit, but you got to also force those safeties to drop. You got to push those safeties back by attempting the deep ball, and we just didn't. So again, I want to see, either was that Gardner Minshew didn't see it and there was guys open, Or did we just not press those safeties back? Did we not call plays that press them back? So again, just another thing that I want to see on the film. Another thing that I think we struggle with on offense is one of my keys to victory is I want to see Gardner Minshew use his legs, and he just didn't. He attempted to a couple times, but he just wasn't that mobile quarterback that we thought could use his legs to get some first downs. I mean, I think the reason why he won the quarterback job was one, because he's a veteran, and two, because he's more mobile than Aiden O'Connell. I really didn't see that mobile. I didn't see that mobility in this game, unfortunately. Now, again, you're going against a good Chargers front four, so I understand that. But I still want to see Gardner Minshew at least two, possibly three times a game, at least two times. You get a first down with your legs. It's 3rd and 4, it's 3rd and 3, and everything's covered. The defense has all the receivers covered, and you get that first down with your legs. That's what I wanted to see, and we didn't do any of it. Now, in addition to that, I want to see Luke Getsy get a little more creative of moving the pocket. I want to see Luke Getsy use play action a little bit better, but get Minshew out of the pocket. Move that pocket. I mean, if we're struggling in the pass blocking, there's a couple things that you can do. If you're struggling in pass blocking, one, you run screens. He tried to run a couple, weren't successful at it. But two, you got to move the pocket. It doesn't need to be Gardner Minshew rolling completely out to the sideline, because when you do that, then you kind of shut off one half the field. And that's kind of a struggle. But just drift them. Just drift them in the pocket. Shift the pocket a little bit. Get away from one of those pass rushers. Get away from the Khalil Mack from one side or the Joey Bosa from the other side. Just drift that pocket a little bit. And we didn't do any of it. I mean, it was basically just drop back all day. And so that's definitely one thing, because we're going against another good Ravens defense next week. I want to see us move and shift the pocket a little bit, help Gardner Minshew, and help this O-line. Help this O-line not just have a quarterback just standing as a statue back there. And that front four is just pinning their ears back coming after Gardner Minshew. So one thing I want to see next week, shift and move that pocket a little bit and even roll him out sometimes. Now, look, one thing that I will say is I do think that Luke Getsy tried to make the right adjustments at halftime. When we came out of halftime and we got that first offensive possession, it looked like we tried to establish that run game. I mean, that very first run, I think Zamir White, I think he ripped off like 13 yards, but then it was a holding penalty on Michael Mayer. And then that very next run, he ripped off 12 yards, but then he fumbled. And that was unfortunate, right? Because that kind of killed that potential momentum. And then on the next opportunity, the next drive that we had, we tried to establish that run game again. And I think that's where Zamir White ripped off about a 9-yarder. So we tried to establish that run game to start that second half, but unfortunately it just died off. I mean, it died off. I believe there was a couple penalties that kind of killed, some momentum swings. And we just couldn't establish some consistency. I mean, we moved the ball a little bit. If you looked at the time of possession was fairly even. All right. So we were moving the ball. Again, it was because Gardner Minshew was hitting some of those intermediate pass routes. He was hitting, Brock Bowers for about a 13-yarder, Jacoby Myers, the one that I think he was actually trying to hit Trey Tucker, but hit Jacoby Myers on an in route. I mean, we were hitting some passes. We were moving the ball a little bit, but we were just stalling out. So that's where I think we need to be better at establishing the run game early on to kind of help this defense kind of stay balanced, right? Force them to kind of come up on the run. That's going to open up that intermediate pass even more. And so again, I think they made the right adjustments at halftime, but unfortunately we just couldn't finish drives. That was our problem all day long. And look, at the end of the day, in my opinion, I think the reason why we lost was purely because of adjustments. This game is all about adjustments. And we tried to adjust. We tried to make adjustments at halftime. Again, the fumble killed us. But at the same time, I think the Chargers made the right adjustments and they executed it. They gave Justin Herbert just that extra half a second to sit in that pocket. They adjusted their pass blocking schemes. He was able to hit a couple passes. I think it was their tight end, Hayden Hurst. He caught one up the sideline. That was kind of a momentum swing. There was a simple out route by Joshua Palmer on the far sideline, right in front of Jack Jones. You could see Justin Herbert in that second half just got a little more comfortable. In that first half, we were in his face. We were beating him up. In that second half, they adjusted their blocking scheme and he just became a little more comfortable. Again, just kind of gave him that extra half a second to throw. And being that veteran quarterback that he is, he was able to kind of just pick apart our defense just a little bit. And then that running game started to open up. I think that was the difference. That was because at halftime, we were up 7-6. But the difference is just those small adjustments. Give Herbert a little more time. They started to complete a little more passes, a couple more passes here and there on drives, which softened up our linebackers. And now all of a sudden, they start to gain some momentum in the run game, and that was the difference. Again, this game is all about adjustments. And unfortunately, I think we attempted to make the right adjustments. Just again, turnovers. It just we didn't execute well enough in order to capitalize on some of the adjustments you tried to make. But unfortunately, the Chargers made the right adjustments. And so, and in addition to that, the only thing I will say is a lot of people are talking about that 4th and 1 with about 7 minutes left to go. We're down by 6, and Antonio Pierce didn't go for it. Look, I agree. It's a tough decision. Our defense was playing very well up to that point, and so I think Antonio Pierce just thought our defense was going to be able to pull through. But in my opinion, I would have gone for it. At that point, you need a momentum swing. You need something. You need something that's going to kind of change the momentum of this game. And at that point, you're down by 6. You had to take a little bit of a risk at that point. Now, I will say on the flip side, the 4th and 1 with 5 minutes left in the first quarter where we went for it on our own 40, I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why you went for it at that moment in time. And the reason why is, one, you already knew the way that game was going. You already knew it was going to be a defensive battle. There's no way you go for it on your own 40, already put them in field goal range, and give them an automatic 3 points to put the first points on the board. Like, that's, to me, that's a decision I wouldn't have done. I mean, when we went for it, I wasn't sure why. I definitely, as soon as that offense stayed on the field, I questioned why we tried to make that move. Because again, at that point, you knew it was going to be a defensive battle. You knew your defense was taking it to them. And if you don't get this first down, you automatically put them in field goal range to put the first points on the board. That's something you don't want. And so that one I definitely did not agree with. The one with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter down by 6, I would have went for it. But again, Antonio Pierce, he's thinking our defense is going to pull through, make that stop, give us the ball back, and we have another opportunity to score. It's questionable. Again, I would have went for it, but these are growing pains for Antonio Pierce. This is something we signed up for. Everybody that wanted Antonio Pierce as the head coach, you got to understand these are the growing pains. All right, this is what comes with it. Now, it's the first game of the season. We should have won this game. It could have been a momentum swing for this entire season. You hate to say that as a game one, but this could have been a huge momentum swing, especially going into a Ravens game where the Ravens have just come off a loss against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're pissed off, and they have an extra 3 games to prep for us. And so, guys, this is my take. This is my take on our game. I'm going to break down the film a little bit more. Once that all 22 pops up, I can review it. I'm going to break it down a little bit more. I'll hit you guys with a full breakdown in the next couple of days, but I appreciate you sticking with me. So, but if you can, hit that like button, subscribe. My next giveaway is at 4,000 subscribers. So if you want to be including that, hit that subscribe button, but also hit that notification bell so you know when I drop more content and when that next giveaway does pop up. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm out.